So my name is Anthony Maurice Young. I'm 22, and I grew up in the Austin community. I'm the first in my family to go to college, first generational student, and my brother is next. And you know, I just come from a background just trying to stay afloat and trying to survive in the world. So my history with JTDC, I first got arrested when I was 10. You know, I was stealing food because my mom couldn't provide for me. My dad wasn't around. He abandoned us. He left my mom vulnerable. So I had to, provide on my own at a young age, where most middle class or upper class students don't get to do that until after college. When you're going through these court systems, we as African Americans face obstacles throughout our life, and when I got into the courtroom, they didn't bring up none of my important stuff that was missing, like mom on drugs, couldn't get transportation to work. I missed most of my high school years because survival was more important than going to school. They didn't even get a chance to ask me, the judge, my POs, none of those people. They didn't ask how I was living. I was living in a home with no electricity, no heat. When I first arrived to the detention center, I was kind of sad in a moment because I'm like, I did not belong there. You know, I was arrested on minor cases like soliciting, gambling, trespassing. A typical white person would get arrested for that. You know, it wasn't like I was a threat to society, but I got arrested 77 times.
Thank you for tuning in.
My name is Tyrone Muhammad. Born and raised in Chicago, Inglewood area. This is where we broadcast ECCJTDC presents Home. Ex-cons for community and social change. In my neighborhood, we didn't grow up with doctors, firemen, policemen that we emulated. My emulation came from the street guy who, in our view, was the protectors of the community. The activity that they performed gave me my first glimpse of entrepreneurship.
My name is Paul Pearson, born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I had the fortune to volunteer doing an externship at the Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. After the internship ended, I asked myself if the young people understood what they were up against, but what could they do to reduce the likelihood that they would come back, reduce recidivism.
I know so many guys who said that they're gonna change their life when they get out of jail. I mean, they really wanna change their life, but it's jail talk. But once you get out, it's back to reality. It forces you to go back and do the same thing that you just got incarcerated for.
Currently, recidivism rates at the JTDC are pretty high, at about 60 to 65%.
754-433.
The overall struggle to find your self-identity and be a part of something that you believe, love you, or appreciate you. These children, they're trying to find a lane to exist in peace and whatever that looks like to them. You know, I'm sure it's different than other communities, but this is what they've come to accept as normal, even though it's abnormal.
But it ties back to, again, chattel slavery. Chattel slavery is the legacy of being born into a caste system. These children then have similar to what young children had on the plantation, the mindset of being without power, dehumanized, less than, worthless in their own community. This place is no place for a child.
The room was about this wide and about to that wall long, just like this to that wall. A personal room. See, when you're a juvenile, they give you a room by yourself in the toilet. I was on solitary confinement. It was depressing because you was in a room, you had to wait till the next day, and you couldn't come out your room, you couldn't take a shower, you couldn't even call your family members if you was on home, if you was on that. So it was just depressing in a way that you couldn't even speak to the people that you love.
The inhumaneness of it all makes you worse. As it relates to those children, I don't even know if most of them have the directions or guidance to deal with isolation. These individuals or these young children are housed in these cages, actually worse than the adults. And from what I've come to understand, that a lot of them aren't even charged with a crime. After serving 21 years of prison myself, I instantly felt horrified for them.
I thought it was for rehabilitation. They don't do that anymore. They don't put us in programs to help us with our addictions or to help us with our circumstances. They just lock us up.
There is a war on crime, but what it turns out to be in real life terms is a war on black and brown youth. Currently, research puts it at about $187,000 to $230,000 per year per youth.
You can't call yourself a detention center for correction of behavior if you never put anything before the actual act happened. They should be given some opportunity, real opportunity, systemic opportunity to change.
The Saba Community Coalition aims to partner with community-based, culturally competent youth programming to give the youth an opportunity to see the positive of who they are and where they come from. And that's what the coalition is all about.
The young people need to start the next generation, and if we are incarcerated and we cannot really talk about the problems that we need to discuss.
What we'd like to do is engage, educate, and empower our youth.